Welcome to the deep dive. We take those everyday conversations, the ones you have all the time, and we really dig into them. We look at the language, the culture behind them, even the psychology.
Yeah, and today we're tackling maybe the most universal conversation starter there is, talking about the weekend.
Right. Friday afternoon, Monday morning, it's unavoidable.
It seems simple, maybe even trivial, but how we talk about our free time planning it, reporting back on it, actually says a lot. It's kind of a window into our values, our stress levels, even how connected we feel.
So, our mission today.
Well, it's to give you the linguistic toolkit, the vocabulary, the grammar, the idioms, everything you need to talk about the weekend, whether you want just the basics or, a much deeper discussion.
Moving from survival phrases right up to some pretty sophisticated analysis. Basically, the shortcut to sounding like you know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Let's start at the beginning. Foundation level. It's Friday afternoon. You're thinking about the weekend ahead.
Okay, the planning phase. What do you need?
Well, fundamentally, there are two key questions. The absolute most common is just, what are you doing this weekend? Simple. Or maybe slightly more formal, you might hear, do you have any plans for the weekend?
Got it. And answering, what's the core structure there, especially if you're, say, at an A2 or B1 level?
The workhorse structure is definitely, I'm going to activity. It's so flexible, so useful.
Right. Reliable, clear. Works for everything.
Pretty much. Whether it's chores like I'm going to clean my house or I'm going to go shopping, usually means the supermarket run.
Or the fun stuff.
Yeah, or the fun stuff. I'm going to relax at home. I'm going to see a movie. I'm going to visit my family, have dinner with friends, stay home and read a book. You get the idea.
And what if?
Yeah.
What if you genuinely have no plans? Which, let's be honest, is sometimes the best kind of plan.
Oh, absolutely. You can just be straightforward. Something like, no, not really. That's a great start. Then maybe add, I think I'm just going to relax at home. Or, I'm just going to stay home and watch TV. Nah, not really. It feels very natural, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It signals you're aiming for a quiet one without making a big deal of it.
Right. So that covers the absolute basics. But we want to move beyond just surviving the conversation. Add a bit more detail, a bit more richness.
Okay, level up. Expanding the vocabulary.
Exactly. Let's think about specific types of activities. If you're heading outdoors, say, for a long walk in the hills or the woods.
You wouldn't just say, I'm walking, would you? You'd say, I'm going for a hike.
Precisely. Going for a hike. It suggests something more than just a stroll. Or if you're on two wheels.
To go cycling, or maybe more casual, go for a bike ride.
Yeah, both work. They paint a clearer picture than just ride my bike.
Okay, so that's outdoors. What about social plans?
Now this gets interesting because the language reflects the purpose.
Yeah.
A really key phrase is to catch up with friends.
Right. It means more than just seeing them.
Exactly. It implies sharing news, finding out what's been happening since you last met. It's about reconnection, which is often a big goal for the weekend.
That's a good point. The language highlights the social value. And if they're coming to your place,
then the phrasing shifts. You'd say, we're having friends over for dinner, or we're having some people over. Maybe specify, like, having a barbecue.
Okay, makes sense. Now, what about plans that are, definite, booked, confirmed, in the diary?
Good question. So I'm going to know. It still works perfectly fine. But for those really fixed arrangements, English speakers often use a different structure, one you might usually associate with the present.
You mean like the present continuous? Saying things like, I'm meeting my sister for lunch on Saturday.
Exactly that. Or we're flying to Spain on Friday night.
And why do we do that? It sounds natural, but it's about the future.
It implies certainty. It suggests the plan is fixed, confirmed, maybe tickets are bought, it's in the calendar. It's a subtle signal to the listener that this isn't just a vague idea. It's happening.
Right. It signals a firm plan. Okay. So we've planned a weekend, maybe using some richer vocabulary, maybe signaling how firm the plans are. But then comes Monday.
Ah, yes. The Monday morning debrief. The conversation flips.
The questions change, don't they? It's all past tense now. How was your weekend? Or did you have a good weekend?
Exactly. And your grammar needs to switch instantly to the simple past. This is where, honestly, knowing a few key irregular verbs is non-negotiable for sounding fluent.
Which ones are we talking about?
You absolutely have to know the past of go, see, have, and do. So went, saw, had, did. Master those four and you can tell probably 90% of your weekend story.
Went, saw, had, did. Got it. So someone asks, how was your weekend? You just jump straight into the story.
You can, but a really nice, effective technique is to start with a general adjective. Describe the overall vibe first.
Oh, I like that. Like what?
Well, was it relaxing? Or maybe busy? Or perhaps eventful? Lots of unexpected things happened. Starting with one word like that sets the scene.
Yeah, manages expectations. It was pretty relaxing or, oh, so busy.
Exactly. It's like the headline for your weekend. Then you can give a few details. And when you do, use simple sequencing words to make the timeline clear.
Like first, then after that, finally.
Perfect. First, we went shopping. Then we met some friends for coffee. After that, we just went home. Simple, clear narrative.
And then crucially, perhaps the most important part for keeping the conversation alive.
Yes. Don't just finish your story and stop. You have to turn it back to the other person. Ask, what about you? Or how about you?
Makes it a real conversation, not just a monologue.
Absolutely essential. It shows you're interested. Okay, so that covers planning and reporting back, the B1, B2 kind of level. Ready to add more nuance?
Let's do it. Moving into B2C1 territory. Intentions, things going wrong, reflecting.
Right. Let's start with the intended vibe. Sometimes you go into the weekend with a real goal for how you want to feel. If you're stressed, you might be aiming for a laid-back weekend.
Laid back, meaning relaxed, calm, informal.
Exactly, low pressure. The opposite might be a weekend that turns out to be really hectic.
Which means very busy, lots of activity, maybe a bit chaotic.
Precisely. Now, if your goal is laid back, it's often because you need to recover. We have great phrasal verbs for this. You might say you need to wind down.
Like gradually relax after a stressful period.
Yeah. Or you might talk about needing to recharge your batteries.
I use that one. Getting your energy back right often implies switching off from work or screens.
That's the idea. And often after winding down and recharging, there's that Sunday evening feeling.
Oh yeah, the Sunday scaries sometimes, but also maybe doing a bit of prep.
Right. The practical side kicks in. You might get organized for the week, meal prep, check your calendar, that sort of thing. Language of responsibility creeping back in.
Okay, but what about when plans aren't so definite? We talked about I'm going to and the present continuous for firm plans. What if it's less certain?
Good point. We need language for flexibility. Instead of I'm going to, you can soften it. Say, I'm thinking of going for a hike. Or, very commonly, use might. I might see a movie.
Depending on the weather.
And
That's a classic conditional.
It absolutely is. Depending on the weather, depending on how I feel. It shows your plan isn't set in stone. You haven't made firm plans yet.
Right. Firm plans. That's the key phrase for definite arrangements. So you can say, we haven't made any firm plans.
Exactly. It manages expectations. But then life happens, right? Plans change. Or maybe you didn't even make any.
The joy of spontaneity.
Or sometimes the stress of it. The key idiom here is to play it by ear.
Meaning you decide as you go along based on the situation.
That's it. No fixed schedule. Just go with the flow. The opposite kind of person has a packed schedule. Every minute is accounted for.
I know people like that. So plans can be spontaneous, but sometimes firm plans, well, they fail.
They do. And we have specific phrasal verbs for that. If a plan fails because of external reasons, maybe the restaurant was closed or the train was canceled, we say the plan fell through.
Okay, fell through is external factors.
Right. But if we decide to cancel it, maybe we don't feel well, or we just change our minds, we called it off. We called off the picnic because it looked like rain.
The subtle difference between something happening to the plan versus an active decision.
Exactly. And often, things don't go as planned, but something else happens instead. There's a fantastic phrasal verb for this unexpected outcome. To end up doing something. It perfectly captures that contrast between intention and reality. We were going to stay in, but we ended up going to that new bar downtown.
Oh, that's brilliant. It packs the whole story into one phrase. We ended up just ordering pizza. Perfect.
It really is useful. Now, for the really advanced level, C1, C2, reflection. Looking back, maybe with a bit of regret or thinking about how things could have been different.
The what ifs. This requires more complex grammar, doesn't it?
It does. This is where the third conditional comes in. It's the structure we use to speculate about a past that didn't happen.
Give me an example.
Okay. If the weather had been better, we would have gone for that hike. You see, past perfect in the if clause, would have, plus past participle in the result clause.
Wow, okay, that definitely signals a high level of command. If I hadn't eaten so much, I would have had dessert. hypothetical past.
Precisely. It's a powerful tool for reflection and storytelling. And this ability to analyze and reflect takes us nicely into our final section.
The philosophical weekend. Deeper meanings.
Exactly. Stepping back and looking at the whole idea of the weekend. It feels natural now, but the 2-day weekend is actually a fairly modern industrial invention.
Right. It wasn't always Saturday, Sunday off. It emerged to support this concept of work-life balance.
This attempt to find an equilibrium between your job and your personal life. But that balance is constantly under pressure, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Especially from what people call hustle culture.
Right, this idea that you should always be productive, always working, even on weekends, turning your hobby into a side hustle, always being on.
It's exhausting just thinking about it. And technology makes it worse. The feeling you have to be available 24/7.
Which has led, in some places, to actual legislation, the right to disconnect.
A legal right not to check work emails or calls outside of working hours.
Wow.
It shows how big the problem is. And we have idioms for people caught in that overwork trap. If someone's working relentlessly day and night.
You'd say they're burning the candle at both ends.
Exactly. Headed for burnout. Or if someone really dislikes their job, they might say they just live for the weekend.
Which suggests the week is just something to get through, a sign of dissatisfaction.
Definitely. Now, let's also get nuanced about free time itself. It's not all the same. There's downtime.
Okay, it was downtime.
Downtime is about recovery. It's the absence of obligation, just letting your brain idle. If you're super stressed, you need time to decompress. That's downtime.
Right. Just stopping. And the other type, leisure. Leisure is more active. It's choosing activities specifically for enjoyment hobbies, interests, your leisure pursuits.
Like gardening or playing music, things you choose to do for pleasure. This reminds me of that proverb. A change is as good as a rest.
Ah, yes. What do you think that means?
Well, I guess it suggests that sometimes doing something completely different, engaging another part of your brain with a hobby, can be just as refreshing, maybe even more so, than just doing nothing. The change itself is restorative.
I think that's spot on. It challenges the idea that rest always means inactivity. And when we spend this precious free time with people...
We hope it's quality time.
Yeah.
Not just being in the same room, but glued to our phones.
Exactly. Quality time implies full, undivided attention. And achieving genuine rest, often depends on your mental ability to switch off.
To actually stop thinking about work or worries, which is harder than it sounds.
It really is. But it's key for the weekend to be truly restorative, to actually replenish you.
So the weekend becomes this canvas where we paint a picture of what matters to us.
Beautifully put. Think about the contrast. On one hand, you have the idealized image of the quintessential lazy Sunday. Slow start, maybe coffee in the papers, comfort, a kind of gentle rebellion against the rush.
I like the sound of that. But then there's the modern pressure.
The Instagrammable weekend, where activities seem chosen less for enjoyment and more for how they'll look online, curated, performed leisure.
Yeah, and that pressure to document everything can really detract from the actual experience, can it? Takes you out of the moment.
It absolutely can. So, your choices, whether you crave a busy, sociable weekend because you're an extrovert, or whether you seek quiet, solitary bliss as an introvert, they say a lot about your values and needs.
So, wrapping this all up, we've gone from, what are you doing this weekend? All the way to the right to disconnect and Instagrammable pressures.
We have, and hopefully what you, the listener, can take away from this is not just a set of phrases, but a deeper understanding. You now have the language to talk about the events, sure, but also the feelings, the intentions, the conflicts that swirl around our modern free time.
The real fluency isn't just knowing the past tense of go.
No, it's being able to discuss maybe the challenge of truly switching off, or noticing how hustle culture affects your choices, or understanding why catching up means more than just seeing.
So maybe a question for you listening. What stands out when you think about your own weekends? Do your choices lean more towards laid-back downtime or active leisure pursuits? How do they reflect your values?
Because that simple question, what are you doing this weekend? Or how is your weekend? It's rarely just small talk. It can be an opening to a much, much deeper conversation about how we choose to live, how we value rest, connection, and joy. Being able to navigate that deeper conversation, that's the real mark of fluency. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we are focusing on something, well, pretty universal. The weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not just going to talk about, where you went hiking or what you binge watched.
No.
We're taking the conversation past the surface level planning and really getting into the sociology, the psychology, the whole global context of leisure time itself.
Dude, that's exactly right. I mean, everyone knows what a weekend is, sort of instinctively.
Right.
But very few people actually stop to analyze its structure.
Or the pressure we put on it.
Exactly. The emotional demand. So our mission today is to move beyond just describing plans to actually analyzing the underlying drivers, the pressures, the cultural assumptions that really define our downtime.
So giving you the tools to think about it differently.
Yes, providing that more sophisticated vocabulary, those analytical concepts you need to grasp, the nuanced reality of the modern break.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're going to start by getting specific, looking at the anatomy of different kinds of breaks.
Right.
You mentioned staycations.
Right, staycations, long weekends.
Then we'll dive deep into that anxiety, that feeling lots of us get. The infamous Sunday scaries.
Oh yes, the dread.
And finally, we'll look at the bigger picture, how technology is fundamentally changing this almost sacred structure.
It's a huge shift.
Right. So it's time to really analyze those 2 days we spend the other 5 anticipating.
Okay, so let's start with a basic structural idea. The long weekend.
The glorious bonus day.
Exactly, because, for most people, a regular 2-day weekend, it's often just enough time to feel like you've caught up on chores, maybe feel even more tired.
Yeah, barely enough time to breathe sometimes. So our sources define this long weekend as what? A weekend extended by at least 1 day.
That's it, usually because of public holiday. Or, as they often say in the UK, a bank holiday.
Right, bank holiday. Heard that one.
And the significance, the real value of the long weekend, it's more than just having an extra 24 hours off.
It feels different, doesn't it?
It does. 3 days gives you that necessary space to do something a standard 2-day break rarely allows. You might actually have time to travel somewhere properly.
Or just stop.
Or just stop.
Yeah.
And critically, enough time to properly switch off. That 3rd day, that's often where the real decompression finally kicks in.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess that need to properly switch off, maybe that drives the next idea you mentioned, the weekend getaway.
It often does.
Yeah.
The definition is pretty simple.
Yeah.
Short trip taken over a weekend.
Yeah.
But the sort of emotional core is right there in the name. You need to get away.
Away from the everyday, your home, your routine.
Exactly. The main goal of the getaway is to have a change of scenery. It's a great phrase, that.
It really captures it.
Yeah, you might not even go very far, maybe just an hour down the road to a small town or the coast.
But it feels different.
It does. That cognitive shift that comes from being in a new physical space, it's often way more restorative than just staying put. It kind of tricks your brain into fully disengaging from the usual patterns.
Okay. But, sometimes getting away isn't practical. It's expensive, or just the thought of packing in airports. Ugh.
Right. It can add its own layer of stress. Which brings us neatly to that increasingly popular alternative, the staycation.
Ah, yes, the stay.
A blend of stay and vacation, obviously. Spending a break at home or exploring your local area. It definitely gained traction, partly because economics, sure.
To save money.
But also, I think, because people wanted to skip that travel-related stress, the kind that can actually, cancel out the benefits of the break itself.
Yeah, you come back more tired than when you left.
Exactly. And the key thing here for a staycation to work is intention. It's not just lounging around in your pajamas, though that's fine too sometimes. But a successful staycation, according to the sources, involves deciding to consciously play tourist in your own town.
Okay, I like that. Play tourist.
Yeah. You go explore that local museum you always drive past, or the park you never visit, or that historic site you just take for granted because it's always there.
Yeah. So you're basically transforming the familiar into something novel.
Precisely. You're finding the away feeling without actually going away.
Okay, so we've got the long weekend for genuine rest, the getaway for that change of scenery, and the staycation for playing tourist at home.
That covers the main structures.
Yeah.
But the irony is, all this planning, all this focus on the perfect break, it often sets us up for some pretty tricky emotional territory.
Right. Let's be honest here. There's definitely a moment, maybe around 4 p.m. on Sunday, where I seriously consider, moving off grid just to avoid Monday morning emails. We need to talk about that feeling, that dread. What are the sources calling this specific type of low-grade panic?
You just described it perfectly. It's the Sunday scaries, or sometimes called the Sunday blues.
Sunday scaries? Yep. heard that too.
It's that mix of anxiety, maybe some sadness, definitely dread that creeps in as the weekend winds down and the work week looms. Psychologists often link it to loss aversion.
Loss aversion. Loss of what?
Loss of freedom, loss of autonomy, and just the stark contrast between the unstructured freedom of the weekend and the structured demands of work life.
Okay. I definitely feel that disappointment, but calling it dread or anxiety, sometimes it sounds a bit, I don't know, clinical. Is it always that dramatic? Or just feeling a bit deflated?
Well, that intense deflation is often what's meant in this context. Some sources actually use quite strong terms, like a sense of impending doom.
Wow, okay. Doom.
It might sound extreme, but it points to the specific anxiety triggered by thinking about Monday morning, that big meeting, the overflowing inbox. It starts to interrupt those last few precious hours of leisure time.
Right, it steals the end of your Sunday. And that anxiety, I feel like it's definitely made worse by another pressure point. The gap between what we expect from the weekend and what actually happens.
Oh, absolutely. We spend all week building it up, talking about our plans, maybe seeing curated highlights online.
Yeah, the pressure for the perfect weekend.
Exactly. And then when those carefully laid, highly anticipated plans inevitably fall a bit short.
Yeah.
You feel this acute sense of disappointment. That's when you hit an anticlimax.
Anticlimax. Okay, so that's like a big finale that wasn't so big.
Pretty much. It's that disappointing, maybe even mundane end to what was built up as something exciting or meaningful. You might say something like, the whole festival weekend felt like an anticlimax because the headliner didn't really live up to the hype.
Didn't live up to the hype. Yeah, we've all been there. That band everyone raved about.
Exactly. And that feeling that it didn't live up to the hype, it suggests maybe we're setting these unrealistic, often externally influenced goals for our downtime. We're aiming for an Instagrammable weekend, right?
Performing leisure rather than experiencing it?
Precisely. Focused on how it looks, not how it feels. And that sense of failure or just feeling let down, it often feeds directly into our third psychological trap, the wasted weekend.
Oh, the wasted weekend. I know this one well. I think many of us do. I once planned this elaborate staycation.
Yeah.
Ended up just doing 3 loads of laundry I'd been avoiding all week and scrolling through social media. Definitely felt wasted.
That's the classic scenario. The wasted weekend is that feeling of profound regret, the sense that you didn't use the time well, you had plans maybe to be productive or social or just properly restorative,
But
instead you maybe suffered from a bit of decision fatigue or inertia kicked in. You just defaulted to passive activities. You ended up scrolling on your phone for hours, only to hit Sunday night and think, wait, where did the weekend actually go? I feel like I didn't accomplish anything.
that's a really interesting insight, actually, that it's not just laziness. Maybe it's a failure of structure or energy. We're so depleted from making decisions all week.
Exactly. That when the weekend comes, our brains just kind of default to the easiest thing, which is often passive consumption, like scrolling, because we just don't have the executive function left to make more choices.
Wow.
And interestingly, one coping mechanism people apparently use, derived from our source material, to combat both that wasted feeling and maybe lessen the Sunday scaries, is something called microdosing work on Sunday night.
Microdosing work, like just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. The idea is maybe spending just 30 minutes, say, planning your Monday schedule or answering 1 or 2 crucial emails. Just enough to feel slightly ahead to reduce the shock factor of Monday morning.
Huh. A controversial strategy, maybe, but I can see the logic as a coping mechanism.
It definitely is. So you see, we've gone from simple logistics of days off to these really complex emotions, pressures, coping strategies.
But before we get totally lost in our own anxieties about wasted weekends, we have to remember that this whole Saturday-Sunday structure, it isn't even the same everywhere.
That's such a critical point to pivot on. We tend to think of the Saturday-Sunday weekend as this fixed universal thing, but it's not.
It's not a universal concept.
Not at all. The structure itself is packed with cultural nuances.
Yeah, we just automatically assume Saturday, Sunday off, don't we? But that's really rooted in Western, largely Christian traditions about days of rest.
Exactly. And our sources highlight this clearly. Think about many countries in the Middle East. Traditionally, their weekend is Friday and Saturday.
Right, because Friday is the main day for prayer and community in Islam.
Precisely. It's a powerful reminder of how religion, culture, societal needs, they shape the fundamental rhythm of the work week. It shows that the weekend is, at its core, a social agreement.
And when that agreement shifts, even by just one day,
It fundamentally changes the shared cultural rhythm of a whole society. That collective time when everyone is expected to be off, or most people are, that changes.
Okay. And beyond just which days are off, the whole philosophy around rest and work seems to differ wildly too. Which leads us to a really important distinction the sources make. Are you aiming for work-life balance or work-life integration?
This is a key distinction, especially now. Work-life balance. Think of it as viewing work and personal life as two separate, distinct entities.
Like two sides of a scale that need to be kept equal.
Kind of. Or maybe think of building a strong fence between your professional life and your personal time, protecting that personal time fiercely.
Okay.
In some places, like parts of Scandinavia our sources mention, that boundary is almost sacred. A boss contacting you on a weekend about non-urgent matters, it's considered almost taboo.
Really? Taboo. Wow. Okay, so that's balance. What's the alternative then? Integration.
Work-life integration is pretty much the opposite philosophy. It doesn't see work and life as separate boxes, but more like interwoven threads.
Weaving them together.
Exactly. Instead of building a fence, you're weaving the threads into a single fabric. So you might feel comfortable taking an hour off mid-afternoon during the week for a personal appointment.
Because work isn't rigidly 9 to 5.
Right. But the flip side is you might also be expected to be available, or at least responsive, to urgent work matters on a Saturday afternoon. It prizes flexibility and agility over that strict, protected separation.
I can definitely see how that plays out differently depending on your job, your industry, your personal style.
Absolutely. And what's really accelerating this whole debate and kind of forcing the issue between these two philosophies?
Let me guess. Technology.
Bingo. Smartphones, constant connectivity, the rise of remote work. It all means the traditional boundaries of the weekend are becoming increasingly blurred.
The 9 to 5, Monday to Friday structure feels less fixed than it used to.
Massively less fixed. This connectivity, this ability to work from anywhere, anytime, it's causing what the analysts call a paradigm shift.
A paradigm shift, a fundamental change in how we think about something.
Exactly. A fundamental change in our underlying assumptions about work structure itself. The crucial insight here is the death of geographical constraint, as one source put it.
Meaning if we don't all need to be in the same office.
Then we don't all necessarily need to work the same hours or even the same days.
Which leads us to
The prime example, the rise of the digital nomad.
Right, working from anywhere.
Their entire lifestyle often defies the traditional weekend model. They might choose to work really intensely on a Saturday and Sunday because, say, the cafes are quieter or their clients are in different time zones.
And then take off Tuesday and Wednesday instead.
Precisely. Maybe to explore a new city when the tourist spots are less crowded. It completely decouples work from the standard Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday rhythm.
But doesn't that challenge the whole idea of shared downtime if everyone's on different schedules?
That's the complication. If you have a global team spread across time zones, working flexible schedules, that shared cultural moment of, say, Friday at 5 p.m., tools down, it starts to dissolve.
Making coordination harder.
Incredibly complex, and it forces each individual to constantly define and defend their own boundaries, rather than relying on a widely accepted societal norm.
Wow. Okay, so the conversation really has moved way beyond just making weekend plans. It's about cultural norms, clashing philosophies, technology blurring everything.
It's deep stuff.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, just trying to have a decent, maybe restorative break in the middle of all this chaos?
Well, this is where we bring it all back to the personal. If we connect all this analysis, the structures, the psychology, the global shifts, it really should lead towards conscious design.
Design, like designing your weekend.
Exactly. Using this knowledge not just to describe what happened last weekend, but to actively structure and maybe protect your future weekends.
Okay, I like that. Being proactive. So how do we do that?
We encourage you, the listener, to consider drafting your own personal weekend manifesto.
A weekend manifesto. Okay, sounds serious. What is that?
A manifesto is basically a declaration, right? A statement of intentions, principles, beliefs. By writing one for your weekend, even just for yourself, you shift from being a passive recipient of whatever the weekend throws at you
to becoming an active architect of your own time. Taking control.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And this is where we can really apply all that vocabulary and psychological insight we've been discussing.
Okay, so how would you start building this manifesto?
It should probably start with purpose. First, key question for your manifesto. What is the primary purpose of this weekend? Or my weekends in general right now?
Okay, purpose.
Is it purely to recharge my batteries because I've had an absolutely hectic week? Or is the main goal about connection, having real quality time with family or friends?
Because knowing the main goal helps you filter out distractions?
Exactly. It helps prevent that accidental wasted weekend feeling because you know what you're actually aiming for.
Okay, purpose first. What's next?
Second question, touching on that psychology bit. What's your ideal ratio for you personally between downtime and leisure?
Downtime versus leisure? What's the difference again?
Downtime is more about unstructured decompression, just being, maybe reading a book with no agenda, staring out the window, genuinely relaxing without needing to do something.
Okay, just unwinding.
Whereas leisure pursuits are more active, engaging in activities that restore you but might require effort, like a challenging hobby, playing a sport, structured exercise, creative work.
Okay. So knowing whether you need more being or more doing to feel restored.
Right. Because knowing that difference helps you avoid that wasted feeling.
Yeah.
For example, I realized a while back my idea of rest was just scrolling endlessly.
Yeah.
But my actual restorative pursuit, the thing that really refilled my tank, was spending time gardening. Even though it's physical work, my manifesto needed to reflect that difference.
Got it. So purpose, then the downtime leisure balance. What's the final piece?
Protection. The final question is, how will you actively protect your weekend from those psychological pressures we talked about?
Like the Sunday scaries.
Exactly. How will you manage the Sunday scaries? How will you resist the internal or external pressure to have that perfect Instagrammable weekend if that doesn't actually align with your need to recharge?
So the manifesto becomes your boundary plan.
Precisely. It's your boundary setting device. It might include specific commitments written down. Things like, I will not check work emails after 6 p.m. on Friday to ensure I can properly switch off.
Or maybe I will dedicate 30 minutes on Sunday afternoon to plan for Monday, using that microdosing idea to minimize the scaries.
Perfect. See how the language we've discussed isn't just descriptive anymore? It becomes prescriptive. Tools for designing a better, more intentional, more protected life.
This has been quite a journey then, from just defining, a staycation,
Right.
all the way through understanding psychological pitfalls like anticlimax and the wasted weekend, to looking at these huge global paradigm shifts driven by technology.
And the ultimate goal, really, is using all this language, this understanding, for deeper self-reflection and hopefully some actionable change in how you approach your own time.
Thinking about those competing forces.
Yeah, the push for hyper-optimized productive leisure versus that deep need for simple, unstructured decompression. The rigidity of the old Western model versus the sometimes chaotic flexibility offered by global connectivity and tech. #TechOutro.
Okay, now here's a final, maybe provocative thought for you to chew on this week, building directly on that distinction we made earlier.
Between balance and integration.
Exactly. What does your personal written manifesto, even if it's just forming in your head right now, reveal about your preferred philosophy? Are you fundamentally trying to build strong fences for work-life balance?
Protecting that time at all costs.
Or are you more comfortable weaving flexible threads, aiming for work-life integration?
Accepting the blurriness, but gaining flexibility.
And maybe the ultimate question, if culture and habit didn't dictate Saturday and Sunday, what 2 days would you truly choose as your ideal weekend based on your own needs and rhythms?
That's a fascinating question to reflect on.
Yeah.
Really gets you thinking about the assumptions we just accept.
So take some time this week, maybe reflect on that. Analyze your own weekend structure, your intentions, your pressures.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We genuinely hope you can apply some of this knowledge, take charge, and become the active architect of your next, hopefully wonderful, weekend. Until next time.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're taking something that feels, well, pretty straightforward, your weekend plans, and really unpacking it.
Yeah, we're not just chatting about, brunch spots or what's on TV.
No, definitely not. We're digging into the big economic, psychological, and even sociological forces that are actually pulling the strings on those days off.
It's such an important discussion, I think, because that whole traditional idea of the weekend, it's almost becoming a luxury item for many, not a given anymore.
Right. And the sources we looked at really challenged this whole thing. They ask, who does this modern weekend setup really work for?
And maybe even more fundamentally, will it even exist in the same way in, say, a few decades, especially with automation looming?
Exactly. So if you're operating under the assumption that the weekend is this fixed, reliable 2-day break for everyone, well, we probably need to look a bit closer.
Okay, let's get into it then.
Yeah, okay. So that basic idea, Saturday and Sunday off, predictable rest, It's just not the lived reality for millions of people today, is it?
No, not at all. And that's a great place to start. The whole notion of the weekend being this shared thing, a collective pause, that's really starting to fracture.
Yeah, I mean, think about anyone who works for themselves or whose pay depends directly on when the demand is high.
Like freelancers, artists.
Exactly. Or, yeah, the social media person, the Uber driver, maybe trying to hit a certain number before Monday rolls around. Their busiest times are often when others are kicking back.
You've hit on a really key part of the gig economy there. That's basically a labor market built on short-term gigs, freelance projects, not permanent jobs.
Right.
And for those workers, their schedules aren't lined up with everyone else's. They're asynchronous, completely out of sync with the standard work week. They work when the work is there, simple as that.
So maybe their weekend is a Tuesday, a Wednesday, whenever. And, okay, flexibility sounds good, but what's the flip side?
Well, think about it. If you take Tuesday off, the rest of the world is still going full tilt, right?
Yeah, the bank might have shorter hours or specific services unavailable, post office queues, and your friends. They're likely stuck in their Monday to Friday routine.
And that's precisely where this feeling of social dislocation comes in. It's that disconnect, being out of step with the rhythm of your community.
So even if you have the time off,
you might miss the weekend barbecues, the kids' Saturday sports, the stuff that happens when most people are off. There's freedom, yes, but potentially isolation too.
And we should be careful not to lump everyone with a non-traditional schedule together.
Yeah.
Gig work is one thing, but then there's the whole world of shift work.
Oh, absolutely crucial distinction. Shift workers, nurses, police, factory workers, retail staff, they often have fixed but deeply non-standard schedules.
It's not about chasing demand like a freelancer.
No, they're assigned shifts, often covering 247 operations, which means weekends are just regular workdays for many of them.
So that freelance designer, choosing to work a Sunday for a good rate and taking Monday off, that feels different from a nurse whose schedule dictates that her days off are, say, always Wednesday and Thursday.
It is different. The nurse often faces logistical hurdles the freelancer might avoid. Need a doctor's appointment, dealing with a government agency, even signing up kids for activities.
Everything runs on that Monday to Friday clock.
Exactly. The whole infrastructure, you could say, is kind of built assuming that's the norm. So their time off is real, but navigating basic life stuff can be way harder. They're navigating a system that sees their schedule as the exception.
So boiling it down, what's the takeaway here?
I think it means that the classic Monday to Friday, 9-to-5 job with the guaranteed weekend, that's increasingly looking like a form of privilege.
A privilege that dictates how easily you connect with your community, how easily you access basic services.
Right. For a massive chunk of the workforce, that clear line between work time and lifetime has been blurred, maybe even erased.
Okay, but what about those who do still have that traditional Saturday-Sunday break? It's not all smooth sailing there either, is it? There's a whole other kind of pressure.
Oh, definitely. It's almost like you're expected to perform leisure. It's not just about resting anymore. It's about having an amazing, highly engaging weekend. The performance of leisure.
And a lot of that performance seems fueled by, well, what we see online. Constantly comparing.
Which leads us straight into FOMO. Fear of missing out, that little buzz of anxiety in the back of your head.
Yeah, that nagging feeling.
That maybe your quiet night in, just reading or whatever, is somehow less valuable, less exciting than the trips, the parties, the curated experiences everyone else seems to be having, can make you feel inadequate.
And that feeling, that inadequacy, it often pushes people into just packing their schedule solid.
Totally. You end up saying yes to everything. The baby shower, the cousin's barbecue, 3 friend of a friend's thing.
Not always, because you genuinely want to go deep down.
Right. But because there's this weight, this social obligation, you feel like you should show up, to keep up appearances or maintain connections.
It's crucial to draw a line there, isn't it? Between things you have to do or feel you have to do and things you want to do.
Absolutely. We need to differentiate externally imposed demands, things others expect, from intrinsically motivated desires, the stuff you do just because it brings you joy or satisfaction.
Because if your whole weekend is just ticking off boxes for other people,
you haven't really rested, have you? It's just work in disguise. Real leisure comes from within.
And you end up starting Monday feeling even more drained than you were on Friday.
Yeah.
I've been there.
We all have. But what's really interesting is the pushback against this. As the pressure ramped up, a kind of antidote emerged.
You must mean JOMO.
Exactly. The joy of missing out.
Which sounds counterintuitive, but it's about actively choosing not to do everything.
It's a conscious choice. deliberately stepping back from the constant buzz, embracing quiet, maybe simply experiences, and actually finding contentment in that choice. Saying no feels good.
It's like reclaiming your time.
It's powerful because it's about recentering yourself. It's flipping that internal script from, oh no, I'm missing out, to, you know what? I choose this quiet moment and I'm perfectly happy right here.
Okay, but let me push back a little. Is JOMO maybe a bit of a luxury itself? Like, is it easier to embrace intentional solitude if you're not worried about, say, missing crucial networking opportunities, or if you feel socially secure already?
That's a really fair point. JOMO isn't about becoming a hermit. It's about being intentional with your energy. It does take a certain amount of maybe psychological resilience to say no when the world rewards yes.
It's a shift, a mental shift.
A huge one. From anxiety about external expectations to feeling empowered by your own internal needs. It really comes down to you, the listener, prioritizing what you genuinely need over what your social feed seems to demand.
That internal battle, the pressure versus needs, it connects directly to the money side of things, right?
Yeah.
Because all those FOMO-inducing experiences, the ones plastered on Instagram, they usually cost money. The weekend is prime time for spending.
Oh, absolutely. We're living deep inside the experience economy. That's a specific economic trend where people are spending less on physical stuff like, a new sofa.
And more on?
Memorable events, concerts, unique trips, fancy cooking classes, escape rooms. Things you do rather than things you own.
It's like the modern version of keeping up with the Joneses. But instead of a bigger TV, you need proof you're living a more experience-rich life.
Precisely. And those experiences, they make for much better Instagram posts than a new washing machine, don't they? The story is the commodity.
Yeah, true.
And when displaying these experiences becomes the main point, it tips over into conspicuous consumption. It's not just having the experience, it's showing everyone you can afford this constant stream of cool, interesting, often expensive activities. It's a status signal.
It's wild when you think about it. For lots of people, Saturday and Sunday are probably their highest spending days, all in the name of buying leisure.
But just like JOMO pushes back on FOMO, there's a counter-movement challenging this relentless push to spend on experiences.
You're talking about the slow living movement.
Exactly. Slow living. It's this whole lifestyle philosophy that encourages, slowing down, prioritizing quality over quantity, depth over frantic activity.
And it directly challenges that packed, expensive weekend itinerary.
Right. Instead of, say, that $150 brunch, maybe it's about taking the time to bake bread, mess around in the garden if you have one, or just take a long walk without a destination. Simple, usually non-commercial stuff.
It puts value on things you can't easily buy.
Yes, exactly. Intangible assets. Things like peace of mind, strong relationships, feeling connected to nature or your community. These things are often free, but they demand your time and your intention, which are scarce resources too.
Okay, but playing devil's advocate again. Does slow living also require a certain base level of security? It's easier to romanticize baking bread if you're not juggling 3 jobs just to pay rent, right? For someone caught in that asynchronous grind we talked about, slow might just sound like stuck.
That's a critical point, and it does touch on that socioeconomic divide again. True slow living, ideally, is about mindset and priorities, which anyone can try to adopt. But let's be real, it's undoubtedly easier to practice when your basic needs are met, when you're not constantly stressed about money.
So it forces a question on us then.
It does. Where do you personally find the most value? Is it in acquiring the next Instagrammable moment, or is it in cultivating that quieter internal sense of well-being? It's a spectrum.
And that tension sets us up perfectly for the last piece, the future. Because the whole foundation of the modern weekend, the 5-day work week, it's not set in stone anymore. People are seriously questioning it.
The big conversation right now is definitely around the 4-day work week. There are trials happening all over the world.
Right. The idea being you work maybe 4 longer days, but get the same amount done and then have a 3-day weekend.
Proponents are really focused on well-being and productivity gains. They argue the 5-day, 40-hour structure is just old-fashioned, a relic of industrial times that doesn't fit knowledge work.
It's all about output, not hours clocked, plus the mental health benefits.
But then the counter-arguments come up. What about industries that need round-the-clock coverage? Healthcare, emergency services, retail.
Yeah, logistics are tricky.
And there are costs, potential disruptions. It's definitely not a simple switch for every single industry. We have to acknowledge that complexity.
But then there's the really, far-out thinking. Beyond just shaving off a day, what about a post-work society?
Now we're getting into serious future speculation. This is the idea that advances in, say, AI and automation could become so profound that full-time work, the kind that structures our whole week,
Just isn't necessary for large parts of the population anymore, or even available.
Exactly. Widespread automation handles much of the labor.
Okay, mind blown. Because if that happens, the concept of the weekend basically dissolves, doesn't it?
Pretty much. If most of your time is leisure time, if work isn't the main structure, what does that even mean?
What provides the rhythm? What provides the purpose?
That's the core of it. It would be a massive societal paradigm shift. We've, historically defined ourselves largely by what we do, by our jobs. Take that away or reduce it dramatically.
And the big question becomes, well, is leisure only really enjoyable because it's a break from work? Does it need that contrast?
Or have we maybe forgotten how to actually do leisure well?
Because, let's be honest, a lot of our current leisure is pretty passive, right? Binge watching, scrolling, consuming stuff.
That's the critical point, I think. Have we lost the skill of leisure, the ability to actually structure and find meaning in large amounts of free time actively?
Active leisure, like learning something new, creating things, contributing to your community. Stuff that requires effort, not just consumption.
Skills that take practice. And skills that might become incredibly important if our relationship with work fundamentally changes.
Wow. Okay. What a trip. We started just talking about, making Saturday plans.
And we ended up questioning the meaning of life in an automated future.
Yeah. We covered so much ground, the messy reality of asynchronous schedules and the gig and shift economies.
That internal tug of war between FOMO and JOMO.
The economic pressures, the experience economy versus the slow living pushback.
And these huge questions about 4-day weeks and even a post-work society.
It really shows how that seemingly simple weekend holds up a mirror to everything our work, our values, our anxieties, our hopes.
Absolutely. It reflects so much. Hopefully listeners can use some of this language, these ideas, to think about and maybe talk about the complexities of their own lives a bit differently.
So let's leave everyone with one final thought to chew on. Building on that future idea, here it is. If you found out today for sure that within 5 years, automation would reduce your mandatory work week to 0, how would that change your definition of a good day right now?
What skill of leisure specifically would you start practicing now to prepare for that kind of future?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.